Since the start of the new millennium, hundreds of thousands of U.S. service members have served in American-led wars or military engagements in the Middle East.
Nice feeling.
Most are now preparing to return to their families and to their civilian lives from recent operations in Iraq and Afghanistan.
No one else is going to get hurt, and two, I'm going home.
Many come home to continue their military careers, some to secular jobs, while others to deal with shattered bodies and minds, traumatized by the brutality of war. But there are thousands of military men and women who never lived to see a hero's welcome after making the ultimate sacrifice for U.S. foreign policy. After more than a decade of war, more than 4,700 U.S. service members have been killed since the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan and the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The families and loved ones of those killed face a unique kind of trauma that most Americans can only imagine. Well, it appears that dozens of those families have had additional heartache created by their own government after an investigation reveals that dozens of remains were either improperly mishandled, burned, or literally thrown in the garbage. October of 2011. United States combat operations appear to be winding down in the Middle East. President Obama orders U.S. troops to draw down in Iraq and Afghanistan, stating by the end of 2011, troop removal will be complete in Iraq and completed in Afghanistan by 2014. But in a startling turn of events, instead of relief as the end comes near, comes a shocking revelation about the soldiers who were killed in action. And even more shocking than what happened was who was behind it. But things here were far from perfect, as many family members would soon discover that their loved ones were treated in ways they could not imagine.
What should be the best mortuary in the world? Can't they get it right?
For Dr. Patricia O'Kane-Trombley, it has been a painful 2 years since her son's death in 2009. Despite her anguish, she became head of the Colorado chapter of Gold Star Mothers, an organization set up to help grieving families of fallen U.S. service members. Then, just last month, she received a letter from the U.S. Air Force. The letter stated a mistake had been made with her son, a very big one. The U.S. Air Force informed her that much of her son's remains were not actually in his casket, and even worse, some of her son's remains were lost completely. In 2008, widow Gary Lynn Smith also received a letter informing her that some portions of her husband's body had actually been dumped in a trash landfill.
They did not ever disclose to us that there was even a possibility that these remains would go into a landfill. I finally got a gentleman on the phone who told me no one wanted your husband's remains, so they threw him in the trash with the rest of the medical waste from the hospital.
Smith and her family could not believe that their hero was treated literally like garbage. Sergeant First Class Scott Smith was killed by a roadside bomb in Iraq in 2006.
No service member, no human being at all should be placed into a landfill, no matter if it's a fingernail, a foot, or an entire body.
It turns out that more than one person who died in the service of America was brought here. An investigation revealed the remains of at least 274 service members were dumped in the landfill as well. And to add insult to injury, the Air Force admitted that this was a regular procedure.
I have to tell you, I think that's reprehensible. If you even have like an animal die, that you expect that the veterinarian, will respectfully take care of their remains. A landfill makes me livid.
Despite the fury among family members, veterans, U.S. lawmakers, and Americans in general, supervisors at the Dover Mortuary Affairs Office are disciplined in a way considered by many to be a slap on the wrist. The commander received a letter of reprimand. 2 civilian supervisors were transferred. No one was fired.
Those responsible have been treated with kid gloves. They haven't been fired. In fact, a job was created for one of them in order to keep him employed.
I think cover-ups are reprehensible, and that's what obviously that they were intending to do. They didn't want any of us to know.
Why would mortuary officials want to keep grieving families from knowing what happened to their loved ones? An initial investigation by the Office of Special Counsel may have uncovered the answer.
We asked them more than once why they wouldn't go to the families and let them know what had happened. Their response was very clear. They couldn't be trusted. They might go to the press.